a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Ruby Bridges. Ruby Nell Bridges Hall is an American civil rights activist. She was the first African-American child to desegregate the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis in 1960. Early life. Ruby Bridges was born in Tylertown, Mississippi, to Abon and Lucille Bridges. When she was 4 years old, the family relocated to New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1960, when she was 6 years old, her parents responded to a request from the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and volunteered her to participate in the integration of the New Orleans school system, even though her father was hesitant. Integration. In early 1960, Bridges was one of 6 black children in New Orleans to pass the test that determined whether they could go to the all-white school, William Frantz Elementary. 2 of the 6 decided to stay at their old school. Bridges went to a school by herself, and 3 children were transferred to McDonough No. 19 and became known as the McDonough 3. Bridges and her mother were escorted to school by 4 federal marshals during the first year Bridges attended William Frantz Elementary. Ruby's father was initially reluctant, but her mother felt strongly that the move was needed not only to give her own daughter a better education, but to take this step forward for all African American children. Her mother finally convinced her father to let her go to the school. Judge J. Scully writes court order for the first day of integrated schools in New Orleans on November 14, 1960, was commemorated by Norman Rockwell in the painting, The Problem We All Live With. As Bridges describes it, driving up I could see the crowd, but living in New Orleans, I actually thought it was Mardi Gras. There was a large crowd of people outside of the school. They were throwing things and shouting, and that sort of goes on in New Orleans at Mardi Gras. Former United States Deputy Marshal Charles Burks later recalled, "She showed a lot of courage. She never cried. She didn't whimper. She just marched along like a little soldier, and we're all very, very proud of her." As soon as Bridges entered the school, white parents pulled their own children out. All the teachers refused to teach while a black child was enrolled. Only one person agreed to teach Ruby, and that was Barbara Henry, from Boston, Massachusetts, and for over a year Henry taught her alone, as if she were teaching a whole class. That first day, Bridges and her adult companions spent the entire day in the principal's office. The chaos of the school prevented their moving to the classroom until the second day. On the second day, however, a white student broke the boycott and entered the school. When a 34-year-old Methodist minister, Lloyd Anderson Foreman, walked his 5-year-old daughter Pam through the angry mob, saying, "I simply want the privilege of taking my child to school." A few days later, other white parents began bringing their children, and the protests began to subside. Every morning, as Bridges walked to school, one woman would threaten to poison her. Because of this, the U.S. Marshals dispatched by President Eisenhower, who were overseeing her safety, allowed Ruby to eat only the food that she brought from home. Child psychiatrist Robert Coles volunteered to provide counseling to Bridges during her first year at Frantz. He met with her weekly in the Bridges home, later writing a children's book, The Story of Ruby Bridges, to acquaint other children with Bridges' story. The Bridges family suffered for their decision to send her to William Frantz Elementary. Her father lost his job. The grocery store the family shopped at would no longer let them shop there, and her grandparents, who were sharecroppers in Mississippi, were turned off their land. She has noted that many others in the community, both black and white, showed support in a variety of ways. Some white families continued to send their children to Frantz despite the protests. A neighbor provided her father with a new job, and local people babysat, watched the house as protectors, and walked behind the federal marshal's car on the trips to school. Adult life. Bridges, now Ruby Bridges Hall, still lives in New Orleans with her husband, Malcolm Hall, and their 4 sons. After graduating from a desegregated high school, she worked as a travel agent for 15 years and later became a full-time parent. She is now chair of the Ruby Bridges Foundation, which she formed in 1999 to promote the values of tolerance, respect, and appreciation of all differences. Describing the mission of the group, She says, "Racism is a grown-up disease, and we must stop using our children to spread it." Bridges Hall is the subject of the Laurie McKenna song, Ruby's Shoes. Her childhood struggle at William Frantz Elementary School was portrayed in the 1998 made-for-TV movie Ruby Bridges. The young Ruby Bridges was portrayed by actress Chaz Monet, and the movie also featured Leela Rochon as Ruby's mother, Lucy Bridges, Michael Beach as Ruby's father, Abon Bridges, Penelope Ann Miller as Ruby's teacher, Mrs. Henry, and Kevin Pollak as Dr. Robert Coles. On January 8, 2001, Bridges Hall was awarded the Presidential Citizens Medal by President Bill Clinton. Like hundreds of thousands of others in the Greater New Orleans area, Bridges Hall lost her home to the catastrophic flooding and the failure of the levee system during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. In October 2006, the Alameda Unified School District in California dedicated a new elementary school to Ruby Bridges, and issued a proclamation in her honor. And in November that year she was honored in the Anti-Defamation League's Concert Against Hate. In 2007, the Children's Museum of Indianapolis unveiled a new exhibit documenting her life, along with the lives of Anne Frank and Ryan White. In 2010, she had a 50th-year reunion at Frantz Elementary with Pam Foreman-Testrawet, who, at age 5, was the first white child to break the boycott that ensued from Bridges' attendance at that school. On July 15, 2011, Bridges met with President Barack Obama at the White House, and while viewing the Norman Rockwell painting of her on display he told her, "I think it's fair to say that if it hadn't been for you guys, I might not be here and we wouldn't be looking at this together." On May 19, 2012, Bridges Hall received an honorary degree from Tulane University at the annual graduation ceremony at the Superdome. In 2014, a statue of Bridges was unveiled in the courtyard of William Frantz Elementary School. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?